without limits or judgment. A place for you and people like you to tell your most effed up stories. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Effed Up Stories. I'm your host, Will Pender.
And I am your co-host, Ryan Sharp.
And tonight we have a fan-oriented podcast for you. We have 3 fans who have submitted stories to the official site. They're actually on the site for you to go check out. Those fans are Luci Bloom, Gordon Mackay, and Rob Bozzuto. So you may actually recognize some of their names from on the comments section. So before we jump into the episode here, I'd just like to remind everybody that if you have your own paranormal story, pictures or video or whatever, you can submit that to us at our official site at www.effedupstories.com. That's EFFEDUPSTORIES.com. And it can possibly be put on our site, and if it tickles us just the right way, you can also be a guest on our show. So with that said, let's move on to our first guest of this evening, Luci Bloom. Hi, Luci.
Hello.
So if you...
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, start right at the beginning and,
All right. Sure. Well, I mean, this all started probably when I was 23, and I'd had I'd been interested in occult things since I was about 17, 18, and I definitely had opened myself up to possibilities of all kinds of things, like looking at astral traveling and ESP, and consciously working on developing abilities and that sort of thing, and I was right into all that, and I'd had some pretty interesting experiences prior to this particular story, just things like knowing who's on the phone before, like, I picked it up, and knowing what they wanted.
That sixth sense kind of a thing.
Yeah. Like, I had a real peak experience around 22, 23 with that sort of thing, where it was just happening all the time, and it was really interesting and really exciting, and not scary at all. I mean, I met some scary people along the way, but they weren't kind of paranormal. But this particular story occurred when I was 23, and I was living in a warehouse in Sydney, Australia.
Yep.
I'd been traveling a fair bit around Australia prior to that, and I'd sort of come back and I'd found this warehouse space, and I was I'm a painter and an artist, so it was a perfect situation for me. So I moved in there, and it was quite a big space, and we had like about 12 or 13 other people in the warehouse, all in their own spaces, and we had artists and we had musicians and writers and just kind of people that weren't that creative but just were somehow living there. And, it was kind of a bit of a hodgepodge of different kind of oddball type characters, which I really enjoyed. And so one of these people moved in after me, and she was a woman that lived next to me, and we got along quite well initially. She was also into witchcraft and things like that. But she wasn't a very kind of showy person. Like neither of us really wore things like the pentacle or dressed up like witches or anything like that. We just kind of dressed normally. And she'd sort of come round every now and then. And at the time, I was kind of smoking a bit of weed. I had this boyfriend and he had weed and he would bring around some for us. But it wasn't like we weren't doing it all the time. It was just kind of every now and then.
And it's lightweight anyway, right? Like, weed is
I wasn't really into... Yeah, I mean, it can open you up to... like, I'm already a pretty sensitive person, and I was actually trying not to smoke too much of it because it wasn't really reacting with me very well, this particular strain. Like, he was growing quite strong weed, so it wasn't working for me very well, but I could have a little bit. But, yeah, I tended to not want to even smoke because it made me a little bit more sensitive than I already was. So yeah, I mean, from what occurred after that, I tend to sort of wonder because I wasn't sort of always doing this, but anyway, so she comes around one day and it's the middle of the day. It's probably closer towards 5 or 6-ish. So the sun was still up and it was still light, but it was just starting to, get that feeling of it about to go down.
Yep.
And so this girl, I'll call her Susanna for all intents and purposes, she came around and she was sort of squatting in front of me and we were just chatting and I was sitting in a chair and next thing I know, she just, like, I looked at her and her whole body kind of convulsed. And I actually thought she was putting it on at the time. I thought she was trying to just be
scare
dramatic
just
be messing with me. So I was just like in my head going, oh, okay, here we go. And she goes, I said, are you okay? And she was like, oh, yeah, it's okay. It's just the old woman that sometimes comes to visit me. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's not the kind of...
like, I was like, there was no one there. I was like, okay, I'm open to all these sort of things, but I also like to stay rational and keep a skeptical mind.
Certainly. Whenever
possible. So I was like, okay, she's just kind of bullshitting me. But I looked behind her and I actually saw, and it wasn't, it didn't take up like a large amount of space. As I was describing in my email to you, it was the effect of, like, when you look on a tarmac and you're at the airport and you look in the distance and you can see the heat coming from the engines of a plane, and everything's kind of shimmering and moving, but it's not. Like, it's all still, but it's all, you can see the heat kind of. Well, that's kind of the effect that I saw, and it wasn't in a large space. It kind of took on the form of like a person, but I couldn't actually see a person there. I couldn't see any features of a person. I couldn't see, all I could see was this emanation of, I don't even know what it was, but it was air, but heat.
So basically, like, I can picture it perfectly, and I get what you're saying. It's kind of hard to describe, but basically what we have is like the shape of a human that you can see perfectly through, but the only reason that you can pick out the shape is because the shape has this shimmering effect that you would get from heat, like even from like a sorry, like even on top from, like, you can see this from like a barbecue sometimes.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So basically, we're talking about the silhouette, like, of the Predator in the Predator movie with the displacement.
Yeah. Actually, that's quite accurate. I hadn't thought of that before. But
I was thinking video game.
It was very contained. Like, it was very contained. It didn't sort of branch out. Like, I wasn't seeing shimmering waves going out from it. It was contained in a kind of
like a human body shape.
Yeah, and it didn't kind of go outside of that form. It just sort of stayed in that one area. So that kind of, because it wasn't spooky nighttime. I didn't, I don't think it could have been any kind of other source, like from the sun. The sun wasn't shining through my room, and even if it had been, I don't think, it's definitely no sunshine I've ever seen before. So, yeah,
you said that it stayed in a very constrained column. I know personally I've seen releases of a gas like propane and whatnot, and you will get that same. I guess it refracts the light, so you get that shimmering. You get that same effect. So it wouldn't have been a gas leak or something like that.
No, there was nothing in my room of that nature. Well, there was nothing there that it could have been. Like, it was just normal sort of electrical sockets in the walls, but nothing that could have come from a gas main.
Well, the interesting thing was that, of course, well, it doesn't matter what it is, it's got a human shape, which is, defies logic, number one. Number two...
Yeah, and it just kind of popped there. It wasn't there before. It just kind of was there all of a sudden, too. So it was...
Yeah, and the more interesting...
All of a sudden I was like, okay.
Yeah, the interesting part in your story was that now this figure was there for like a good 10 minutes.
It stayed there. It stayed for like as long as she was there. Really, she stayed for a few more minutes, and then she sort of went away. And it was just there the whole time. Like, she was just carrying on like normal. Like, according to this girl, this granny, basically, she said it was an old woman, had been with her since she was a young girl, and just would pop by every now and then, like no particular reason other than she seemed to be a conduit for this this person. Like, the way her body convulsed when this this emanation occurred, it was as if something had gone through her, and I don't say that lightly. It was like something went through her.
Now, was she surprised that you could see it? Like, is this something...
She didn't act like it was anything odd at all. To her, it was like totally normal.
See, I could understand, like her, seeing it, and I'm just curious if this entity had appeared before her on like kind of a regular basis throughout her life, is what it sounds like. I wonder if everybody could see it, or maybe as you said, you're sensitive, so that you could see it. And I'm just wondering if maybe she had thought, you know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't actually asked her if other people had seen it. I really didn't think of asking her that at the time. I was more kind of blown away by what I was seeing. I was like, what the hell? Is that some funky weed I'm smoking?
Yeah.
But, and so, yeah, I mean, it didn't give me a bad feeling. I wasn't scared. I wasn't, I was just a bit weirded out. I was like,
oh, for sure.
Okay. So there was no weird feelings associated with that, and she acted like it was all normal, and then she left. So it kind of went, and it went with her. There was nothing there afterwards, and I was just sort of left with my experience going, okay, dum-de-dum.
Well, thank you, Luci, for that very strange tale. And, of course, for everybody else out there listening, if you want to read the written version, you can check that out on our website. It's under the story section, and it's titled Shimmer Spirit, and its category is paranormal. Moving on to our next guest is our guest, Gordon Mackay. You may have seen his comments in the comment sections of several of our videos as Gogs Mackay, because his nickname is Gogs. And we actually owe Gogs a great deal of gratitude, as he is the one who got us our first two interviews. That was with Jason Haxton and Chris O'Brien. So Gogs is very much into the world of paranormal, and he's coming on to the show today to share his own experience with a sighting he saw over in Scotland. Hello, Gogs.
Hi there, Will, and hi there, Ryan, and hi there to the listeners.
So, Gordon, can you tell me, like, do you have, now you're in Scotland, do you know of any particularly interesting stories, be it lore or people that you know that is unique to the area?
In terms of the paranormal.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Personally, myself, I would say I've only had one definite paranormal experience when I was about 12. And the good thing about it is that there was one other guy with me, so we're pretty sure we weren't hallucinating. We certainly weren't under the influence of anything. And it basically was just 100 yards from our home, my childhood home, just round the corner. There was like a classic corner shop. In the States you'd call a 7-Eleven kind of thing, family-owned place. And if you can imagine, my street was a straight street, and at a right angle to that, as you just go round the corner, the shops were in the corner, and then a friend of mine just lived a couple of doors up, and all these houses were semi-detached, as in one building split in the middle for two separate houses kind of thing. And about 11 o'clock at night, we were out reasonably late, and it would have been not summer anyway, because it was pitch dark, and we were standing at the front steps of my friend's house. Can't really remember what we were doing, just mucking about as you do at that age. And we looked down towards where these shops are, that we knew the owners, we knew anyone who lived there, as you do, when the vicinity of where you live yourself. And,
oh yeah.
Anyway, there's a little lane just at the side of these shops that was on the side of my friend's house. That's just around the corner from my own street. And as we're looking down, the wall to this lane was maybe 4.5 foot high, and at the other side of the lane was the side of the shops. Now these shops were built into a bigger building, so there was a couple of apartments atop, and all the ground floor things were a butcher, like a baker shop, and a newsagent. Anyway, we were just happened to be looking down that way, and we both saw what basically looked like the silhouette of an old woman. She was only, she could only have been about 5 foot high, considering the wall was about 4.5. It was unmistakably a human being. It looked like an old lady, and it struck us both as very strange at that time, because we knew no sort of old woman fitting that description should have been there, because on this little lane she was like a couple of meters into from the street, from the sidewalk. This lane just went round to the back of the shops, and there was a very high fence down there. It was basically a dead end. There was nowhere to go. We were she looked so out of place, because of the time at night and because it was basically private and there was nowhere to go. We both saw her, and we both ran round to ostensibly to help this woman and say, "Look, are you lost or something?" Because she was so out of place, and she never left her eyes as we sort of ran round, and it literally took us 5 seconds to go from my friend's front door to round there. But as we were heading towards her, she walked further into this lane, which we knew was going to be a dead end. And nothing whatsoever about this struck us as paranormal in any way, apart from as we rounded into this lane to follow her to where this dead end where we'd think we'd find her, she just completely disappeared. There's no way she could have gone anywhere, and she certainly didn't come out the only entrance, because it was in our eyes all the time, and both of us saw this. And it wasn't until we couldn't find her that we suddenly thought, what the hell is this?
Certainly.
All I could call it is a full body apparition. Now there is a way out, but it would have been about a 7 foot high fence that we would have had difficulty scaling, certainly in like under half a second's time. And you could tell by the kind of the gait of this person, woman or whatever, that there's just no unless it was an acrobat or something. pretending to be an old woman or whatever. There's just no way, because at the time at night, no one would know we would have been there. We didn't know that we were going to be there at that time, so it couldn't have been a set-up prank, because, who were the audience going to be? We didn't know we'd be there, and there was certainly no one else about at all. And so this unmistakable figure of an old woman walked into a dead end, and this whole area, we never left her eyes. She never left her eyes, and just the one instant that she could have got out of our sight by rounding the corner into this dead end, she was flat gone. And it wasn't until that second that we thought, holy shit, what the hell was that?
That actually reminds me of a story I heard myself. But rather than get into that, is there anything unique that you noticed about when you first saw the apparition of the old lady, did she look, whole, or was she transparent? What kind of, her clothes, was it of modern times, or?
Well, that's the thing, bearing in mind that it was dark and she was wearing dark clothes. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of Queen Victoria after her husband, the king, had died. For the rest of her life, she always wore black. She was in mourning until whenever she died. It kind of looked maybe like clothes like that, but because of the light levels and because the clothes were dark, we couldn't really make out what the clothes were, but everything was dark. But as far as we knew, it was definitely, we thought initially definitely it was a human being, and it was completely solid. There was no kind of wispy or see-throughness about it, which kind of made it all the more strange. Had there been anything like that, we maybe might have suspected we're seeing some kind of spectral whatever, but as far as we could see, we thought it was a solid, real human being. But that human being did a disappearing act in literally instantly.
It's interesting when we hear the whole disappearing act phenomenon. We tend to assume that it's a visual manifestation and nothing more. It's not physical. You can't touch it. But there have been many stories I've read where these visual apparitions have, been able to physically manipulate the environment, or in some cases, the apparition was simply structural, like it could be a set of stairs or something like that people have claimed to have climbed, only to discover on their way back that these stairs in fact didn't exist, and they had to find a different way around. There's actually a story on our website, Old Booth Hospital, I believe, sent in by Dan Cope, that touches on something like that. So again, Gogs, thank you very much for coming on and telling us your story. And now, ladies and gentlemen, on to our last guest, is our guest Rob Bozzuto. He sent in a story about his hiking trip up at Loon Lake, where he and his friend, Tory, believes that they have come in contact with Bigfoot. So, hello, Rob, and welcome to our show.
Hi.
So, if you could, let's hear the story for our audience.
Well, friend and I decided to go to Loon Lake, which is outside of Mackay, Idaho, a good 2 hours. And in the process of going up there, we went on a hike, went out to the lake, and kind of neat out there. There's an old plane crash out there. It crashed out there in World War II. And the people actually had to hike out of there. There was no roads back there back then.
Okay.
It was in the 40s. Yeah. So it is kind of a mystical area, somewhat. And we went and checked out the plane crash and stuff, and that was the first time I had ever done that. That was fun. And looked at the remnants of the plane and whatnot. But it was in the process of coming back from the lake that things got a lot more interesting. And in the process, I let my friend take us on a different trail than I should have, and I kept thinking, my thought was, he's going to realize we're on the wrong trail and we're going to turn around. Well, it didn't happen that way, and we wound up getting stuck out there for the night.
And that's for the... Yeah, you guys made camp, I believe, right?
Yeah, we made a makeshift camp. I had some matches in my pack, and which I just happened to bring. I don't usually hike with that. And we made a fire, and I figured if anything was going to happen, at least we'll have a fire going. And we didn't really have much food because we didn't expect to stay out there that night. You know, not on the trail for sure. And we had a little bit of water and whatnot, so I was just hoping to make it back in time because my friend had to go to work and whatnot. And we walked and walked and walked, and I'd never walked on this trail, the one where we got turned around on. I'd never been on that trail ever.
Okay.
And so things kind of got confusing on the way back because the way that trail is, you're coming on the way back, and it splits three ways, while we wound up taking a left turn instead of a right. And if you don't realize what you're doing, you're going to be totally lost. So that's basically what happened to us. And what's that?
Well, the interesting part, of course, was what happened when you guys were sleeping.
Well, when we got out there, you know, by the time nightfall got to where it was getting dark, and I told my friend, I said, you know, we're going to have to stay the night out here, and, you know, you may not like this and that, but it's just, that's how it's going to be, because I'm not going to walk in the middle of the night and not know where I'm going.
Yeah.
And he didn't like it, but we were trying to find a good place to stop and rest for the night. And that's where things got very interesting right away. He had been running ahead of me a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
And I was getting to where I was getting blisters on my feet from walking so long.
Yep.
And it was then that when I had caught up to him the first time, we heard, and he heard it too, we heard a siren off in the trees, and it sounded, I mean, kid you not, it sounds just like an ambulance, is what it sounded like.
Okay.
I'm thinking to myself, what in the, you know what was that?
Yeah, that's an odd place to hear something like that.
Yeah, in the dead of night, we didn't see anybody. We hadn't seen anybody for hours. So I'm like, I don't know what that was. Other than I know I heard it.
And it was really loud, I believe, is what you noted.
And it was really loud.
And so would you say it's more of a shrill sound, like a screech, or, you know, I don't know.
It was, that sounded pretty clear to me. It was, to me, I didn't think it had a screeching sound at all. And I'm not sure what Tory thought, but to me, it was just like, what an ambulance would sound like, but you're in the woods, and I'm thinking to myself.
Really out of place to be in the middle of the woods near something.
Yeah, really out of place. And
okay.
I'm thinking to myself, what?
Were you able to judge, you know, the distance that it was from you?
Oh, it couldn't have been very far off. It was probably, I'm just guessing, it was probably 40 to 50 feet away is what it sounded like.
Okay.
I mean, it sounded very close to us.
Yeah, that's...
that's fairly close. We stood there for a little bit, going, okay, that was weird, but now what? You know, thinking maybe we'd see something. Well, we didn't see anything. after that. You know, it's just, you're looking pitch black because we didn't have flashlights or anything.
And that must have been kind of creepy anyway, being out in the woods.
It was, yeah, it was kind of wild. When I heard that, I'm thinking to myself, man, that's the strangest thing I've heard out in the woods in my life. To hear that out there.
So you guys hear this, you know, out of place siren, and I mean, you're walking down this trail, so you're looking to make camp here.
Right.
So
we're just kind of trying to find a place to bed down somewhere. What I was telling him, and we didn't really find a good spot. We were coming across swampy areas, wooded areas, and I kept thinking to myself, these areas don't feel right to me, you know.
Yeah.
And that's when we heard that siren, and that just blew me away. I was like, wow. I heard that. I mean, Tory said he didn't think anything about it, but I mean, the least you think is very out of place for sure.
Oh yeah.
So I believe you mentioned in your original story that you seen some lights.
Yeah, and then that was once we got to where we were going, and what happened is where the trail meets, there's an ATV trail, and we headed back to the beginning between the ATV trail and the hiking trail.
Okay, so this was the next morning?
No,
this is still the
same night. This is the same night.
Okay.
All I wanted to do is find a better spot so we could just lay down, and you know, if anything happened, I thought we'd be a good vantage point.
Yeah, so some form of security at least out in the woods.
Yeah, some form of security with fire and whatnot. And we got down in this one area, and it was kind of where the trail zigzags a little bit.
Yep.
And we just got down. We were just right at the foot of the trail, the ATV trail. And I said, okay, this is a good spot right here. So we gathered up some wood, made a fire, did all that, and you know, pretty soon I'm kind of laying on my backpack trying to go to sleep, but I don't know, it didn't feel right. I wasn't really able to even sleep. I couldn't concentrate. I felt like something was watching us, and I don't know if Tory got that sense. He's going to tell you the story in a minute, but I mean, I just got the sense that there was some kind of presence. I didn't know what. I didn't know it was bear or whatever, but it just felt like something was there. So I lay down, and I look over, and I asked Tory, I'm like, there's these two, look to me like yellow lights. I didn't know. But I said, do you see those yellow lights over there? And he looks and goes, yeah, I see them. He goes, is that a firefly? And I'm like, you don't get fireflies. So I asked my dad, and he said, yeah, they had them east, but never seen them out here. And I'm like, I don't think it's a firefly. And they were kind of like,
how bright were they?
They weren't super bright. They weren't like flashlight bright. And I've told this story on Finding Bigfoot, and they say, what was the light source? Well, there wasn't much of a light source. It was pitch black out there. I mean, we had our fire, so yeah, that was somewhat of a light source. But I mean,
so it could have been the fire reflecting in the eyes of an animal, anyway.
Yeah, some kind of an animal, I guess. But we're talking, we saw these lights for a good, probably 3.5 hours at least.
Did you ever decide? I'm sorry. Did you ever decide to go over and check out what it was, or was it just too creepy to?
You know, I did. I didn't know if I should. I didn't know if I should even go there, or just. I mean, some people say with these experiences, you just sit back and enjoy the show. So, I mean, I was taken aback by the whole thing, but I did go check the next morning, and I mean, no tracks, nothing.
Now, of course,
in that area.
So rewinding back to the night, because of course you were seeing these, dim yellow lights kind of coming on, and they'd slowly go out.
Right.
But of course, you did see a red one, and this was
I saw a red figure. Yeah.
Yeah, you said like it was around 12:30 or so.
Red. Yeah. After that, I saw a red flash.
Okay.
And yeah, and that was some kind of an upright bipedal figure, standing up, and I kind of woke up, and I didn't know if my friend was sleeping. Because we were taking turns sleeping to make sure the fire wouldn't go out.
Yeah.
And trying to go to sleep, but I kind of woke up, and when I looked over, my friend had his back. He had his back turned from the direction where I saw this upright, I don't know.
This bipedal creature.
Yeah, it was 2 legs for sure.
And you said that this creature was like 6.5 feet tall. I believe you said.
At least 6.5 to 7 foot tall, and it was just standing there, and just quick flash, and it was gone that quick.
So do you think that thing was, the feeling that you had that you were being watched? I mean, do you think that this was the creature that was watching you?
Yeah, I just got a sense of some kind of presence, and the only thing I can think of is that it had to be it. I mean, we didn't hear a bunch of sounds or anything like that until we heard some stuff the next morning, but that night we didn't really hear a whole lot.
Okay, so fast forwarding to the next morning, because after that, I believe, is where the events kind of stopped.
Right.
Well,
we heard some screaming. We heard what sounded like. Well, Tory thought it was kids playing. It kind of sounded to me like a woman screaming.
Okay.
But we're talking 6:30 in the morning, and that was on our way out. Yeah.
Okay, and of course, now, I mean, you guys are there, so I mean, if there was anyone around, I mean, there would be signs of it, like more than just screams. I mean, you'd probably come across people or hear other kinds of sounds. So there was no indication that there was anyone remotely close to you guys, other than like these screams.
No, not that morning. I mean, the last person we'd seen was that evening.
Okay.
And we asked him if we were going the right direction, was all, to get back to the car. And so that was the last person we'd seen the afternoon before.
Okay. So, and I mean, you guys heard the, you heard the screams, I believe, you have there for 20 minutes. And, and you said something sound like, and I didn't know what the acronym was for, that a sound like that on the BFRO site.
The Bigfoot Field Research Organization.
Okay.
Right.
So is that what you would describe the I guess the the screams like? Or you said it was.
Yeah. So it was.
It was like the Klamath Falls screams.
Yeah, the Klamath Falls. That's the one that sounds really eerie. This one didn't sound as distressed as that. I felt like it was just a warning call.
Okay, so it had similar
qualities, yeah.
Okay, so I mean,
had similar aspects.
So I guess, I mean, that to sum it up, I mean, you guys you saw what appeared to be a bipedal creature in the middle of the woods that feels like it was watching you guys for quite a few hours. And and you hear these screams the next. Yeah, and then you have these screams the next morning that have similar qualities to, supposedly recorded Bigfoot screams. So, yeah, I guess that would point to a Bigfoot experience right there, or at least it appears that way on the surface. So you said your friend Tory was there, and he was gonna, I guess give his version.
Yeah, because he thought he saw something in the woods.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hand you over to him here in a minute.
Okay, cool.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for telling your story.
Yes, thanks, Rob.
Yeah, thanks a lot for putting us on.
Oh, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, we've done it a couple times. I did it on the episode of Finding Bigfoot Idaho, and they didn't show it, but it was good to do it at least.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, and then we're in Henry May's radio show one time too, different time. Yeah, both good experiences though. Okay. I'll hand you over to Tory now.
Yep.
Okay. Just pulling up to his house. Okay, here's Tory now.
Hi, Tory.
I'll talk to you guys later. Hang on. He's on his other phone. Okay, we're on the air, dude. Sorry.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, how are you?
We're good. We're good. So, Rob tells us that you're going to tell us your version, or I guess your experience in this story of a supposed Bigfoot encounter.
Did he already tell you his side?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's see. To begin with, I heard about Loon Lake up in Mackay. I heard about it, but I never knew where it was. And Rob was up there. He was up there with a mountain bike once, and he told me to we should actually take a day off, and we should go up there and just take a day hike up there and just see it because there's plane wreckage up there.
Yep.
So we went there on a Sunday or a Saturday, and we got there. What was it? Noon, 12 or 10:30, 11 o'clock noonish.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a good 7-mile hike, but it's a beautiful, beautiful lake. It's a 7-mile hike up and down some hills, and it's just very, very isolated. You know, miles and miles away from civilization, from anywhere.
Okay.
And we got there right around, I want to say 2:30ish, and we had packed lunches and everything like that, and we sat and we talked to some back campers that were there. They were there overnight, and we ate lunch, and then we decided to check out the wreckage and everything like that, and we decided it was getting to be right around 3:30, 4 o'clock-ish. We decided we wanted to head back to the car because we knew we were in for quite a bit of a hike back, so we decided to head back, and as we were leaving Loon Lake, we took a wrong turn, just got on the wrong trail, and I want to say about 2 hours on the hike back, I realized that we weren't on the right trail, but I knew it had to lead to somewhere. It had to lead to some campground, but I knew it was going to lead back to the campground that we had parked the car at.
Yeah.
So as we were hiking, Rob was ahead of me, and I know somebody was behind me, and there was a guy on a mountain bike. He was coming up from behind, and he stopped for a minute, and then we asked, where the heck is this trail lead? And he goes, well, it goes to this campground, but it's going to be a ways on this trail, and then you got come onto another trail, an all-terrain trail, and that's going to go away. So you got a ways. We were like, oh crap, so great. So we were hiking and we kept on going, and as we were going, we knew that we weren't on the right trail. That was a given. And so, as this trail to Loon Lake ended, no doubt it came to the all-terrain trail, and we could tell that the sun was going down, but we still had visibility. It wasn't complete dark. And so, as we got on this all-terrain trail, we stopped, and we heard this. I want to say it was like a tornado-like siren.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, it sounded like a tornado-like siren, and it was really, really weird because we didn't know what made it or where. I mean, it didn't really sound too far off the trail from where we were at. So I looked back at Rob and I pretty much said, "What in God's name was that?" And he was like, "I don't know what the heck that was." But I pretty much told him, like, "Well, I don't know where this trail leads to, but I know we gotta get off this. We gotta get off this mountain." Even that, we just gotta find we gotta find the car.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, I totally agree. But we were both pretty much exhausted because it's a 7-mile hike. And so I was pretty stressed out because I knew we were unprepared. I had a tank top on. He had a T-shirt on. We packed a lunch. I had a couple water bottles. He had a huge water bottle, but that was pretty much it. So we were really, really unprepared, but we didn't have a tent or anything. And so it was pretty. It wasn't really, really scary or nerve-wracking. Adrenaline rushing, because we knew that if we weren't going to get off the trail and find a car, we were going to be up there overnight. And thank God it was in the middle of July, to where it wasn't really, really, really too cold at night.
Yeah.
So I started down the trail, and I could tell Rob was exhausted, and he started falling back on me, and I waited for a little bit, and he caught up with me, and I continued down the trail, and it was a given that the sun was, it was going down, but we still had visibility. It wasn't completely dark, but the woods up there are really, really dense, really dense. So I looked back on the trail, and I realized that I couldn't see him in my sight. And so I waited for him, and I waited for a few minutes, and as I was waiting, I heard movement in the woods. And I looked to my right, and like I said, it's really dense woods, but I could see inside, and all I saw was 2 legs jump over a log. And I knew it wasn't kids or anything like that. We were miles away from anybody. So it was anybody.
So it was. Was it only you that saw this? Or did Rob see this too? Or
no. See, I was waiting for him to catch up with me, and I just saw 2 legs jump over a log.
Okay.
But I knew it wasn't. I knew it wasn't a deer or an elk because it didn't have the tannish coat that a deer or an elk would have.
But they were fur covered.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And I knew it wasn't a deer or elk, but I just saw 2 legs, and I knew it wasn't a bear because I would have seen 4 legs.
Yeah.
So it just stunned me on what it was. But it was dark skin. It was dark fur.
Now, were the legs thick? Were they thick, or were they?
They were very thick.
Okay.
Could I tell how tall it was? No, I just saw it jump over a log. But it didn't look like the hind legs of a bear. It looked like regular legs. But I knew I could bet you $1,000,000 it wasn't a bear because I would have seen 4 legs jump over, not 2.
So, could you tell that the knee bent in the front,
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh heck yeah. Yeah, like I said, I heard something in the woods, and I looked in there, and I just saw 2 legs, and I'm like, what in the world? And so I didn't dare go any more than a couple feet off the trail because whatever it was still there. It wasn't too far in the. It wasn't it wasn't like 200 yards in the woods. It was only maybe 15, 20 feet in the woods. But the woods were so dense that you just really couldn't see clearly. But I knew it was still there because if it would have moved, I would have seen it. But it knew how to blend. It knew how to blend in with the woods. It knew how to blend in. So I took a few steps off the trail just to see if I could get any more clear view of it. Couldn't see nothing. And so that's when Rob actually caught me, and he literally said to me, "Do you see something?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just saw something jump over a freaking log." He goes, "Do you see what it was?" I'm like, "I just saw 2 legs." He was like, and that was that. And so we both pretty much bargained with whether or not we wanted to keep going or go back to the trail that led to Loon Lake and trying to find out what wrong turn we took to try and get back to the campground that we parked at. So we figured keep going would be pointless considering how dark it was. So we decided to head back, and we got back to the beginning of the all-terrain trail. Back to we started down the trail that led back to Loon Lake, and by that time it was pitch dark. And for our luck, we did not have a full moon, so it was totally pitch dark. Couldn't see 2 inches in front of me, and I couldn't believe this was really going on with us. Because I really didn't want to tell Rob we're going to spend the night. Because, tell you the truth, I just wanted to get off the mountain and get back home.
Yeah.
But I was literally trying my best to see the visibility of the trail. And so as we were going down the trail, I noticed in back of me, Rob was pretty much on his, kneeling down because he was so exhausted. And I literally said to him, what are we going to do? Are we going to be up here? Because we had no flashlights. We had nothing. And he was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm exhausted. And I'm like, well, I guess the best thing to do is just stay on the trail and wait until morning until we have some light, some visibility on the trail, and find out where to go and how to get off the trail.
Yeah.
So we did. We stayed on the trail, and we took our backpacks off, and we had, of course, now I didn't have a cell phone at the time. He had a cell phone, but he had no signal on it. So we were pretty far up there. So we couldn't even guess on what time it was when I was 10 or 11. But we laid down for a while, and like I said, thank God it was in the middle of July. It was not that cold, but it was getting downright chilly at the time we were up there. And I told Rob, I was like, I'm kind of cold, so you won't have any matches. And sure enough, by luck, he had matches on the bottom of his backpack. And we had no luck. I couldn't see jack up there. It was so dark. And so twigs and branches, I broke off trees and made a little tiny fire just to get some heat off of it. And so when we made it, we just sat there and just waited for time to kill. And at that time, I heard movement in the bushes not too far from us. And it was really adrenaline rushing because I told Rob, I was like, well, it's definite. We're not alone.
Yeah.
And so I stood up. What's that?
I was just going to say, that's what you want to hear in the middle of the dark, scary woods at night. We're not alone, right?
Well, it wasn't so much terrifying, but it was just nerve-wracking because whatever it was, it was in one place and then another place, and then it was in back of me. It was like circling us.
So whatever it was, yeah, they were interested in you guys.
Well, whatever it was, it didn't feel threatened by us. Thank God for that, because if it felt like it didn't want us there or we shouldn't be there, it would have done something to make us leave. And we were not in a position to get off that trail because we couldn't see 2 feet in front of us.
Yeah.
So it would have thrown rocks, it would have broken branches, it would have stomped, it would have growled, it would have done something. But I stood by the fire, and we were just sitting there just BSing, and next thing you know, Rob just just looks at me and goes, "Did you see that?" And I'm like, "See what? I didn't see anything." And he there was a big, huge boulder on the hillside, right not too far above us. He saw a figure, and it was like a quick flash of red. But he said it was about 7.5 feet tall, and it was just there for a quick moment. And he said it was just sitting there looking at us. Now, it was kind of scary. What's that?
Did you see this too?
No, I did not. I didn't see it. I wish I had.
But
I was looking in the same direction he was looking.
But you did see the lights that were dimming, like the yellow dim lights that would come on and go out, right?
Yes, I did see those.
Okay.
I did see that, but I did not see the figure. I didn't even see the boulder above us. It was that. I mean, it was dark. He got a glimpse of it, and I just didn't get a glimpse of it at all. So
okay.
we both laid there for a while, and I didn't get a wink of sleep that night because I just couldn't believe we were up there. I'm so unprepared the way we were. But was it scary? No, I don't know. It wasn't scary. Was it nerve-wracking? A little bit, but it was more adrenaline rushing because, like I said, up there, unprepared, and this thing is just circling us, not doing any harm, but wondering what 2 idiots are doing on a trail. It's really crazy. But yeah, finally when visibility came, and the sun was getting completely up, but it started getting light and everything like that, and we could actually see the trail. We got our backpacks on, and headed up towards. We got towards the end of the all-terrain trail and got back, or the trail that led to Loon Lake and back on the all-terrain trail. And as we were heading down, sure enough, I got ahead of Rob. And as we were going down, the sun was still going up, and I couldn't tell what time it was. I had no idea what time of the morning it was. As far as I know, it was 10:30 in the morning. And as we were heading down the trail, I started hearing, from a distance, it sounded like kids playing. So I figured we had to have been near a campground. Yeah. And as I kept on walking, as I got closer and hearing it, and as I was getting closer and closer to the sound, I could tell it was not kids. I just didn't know what it was. So I'm going down this trail, and I look back, and I don't see Rob, but I knew he wasn't too far behind. I come around the corner, and there's a bridge. And so I got up on this bridge, and I started listening for a while, and it was like I want to say this god-awful, horrific bird. It was like almost like a scream bird call. Nothing I've ever heard before. And it didn't sound, it was too far off the trail, down the river, to where, because there was a river going underneath the bridge down the mountain. It didn't sound like it was too far off from where we were at, but I knew it wasn't a communication call because nothing was communicating with it back and forth. It would sound like more like a warning call, like I know you're here, stay the heck away from me. Because when Rob caught up with me, he was listening to it, and he looked at me and he was like, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, "I don't know what that is." And if we weren't so under pressure to get the heck off the road, off the trail, and find the car, it's almost tempting to actually try and find out what the heck that was. You know, it didn't harm us. It didn't approach us. I mean, it really didn't come to us face to face. But it was like I just never, nothing I've ever heard before. It was unreal.
Well, you know what?
I kept on. What's that?
Oh, well, the strange thing about, I mean, the whole event, it seems, I mean, well, I can't explain the siren sound, that because that totally is just weird and out of place. But I mean, taking both of your sides of the story together there, the interesting thing, I mean, you see a bipedal creature with thick hairy legs jump over a log. Rob, he sees the silhouette, it would seem, of a bipedal creature within this flash of light. And you both witnesses these flashes of light and hear the sounds of something circling you at night around the forest. And then you had these strange screams the next day, which Rob compared to a sound file of Bigfoot, like it had some similarities. So I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, all of it together, I mean, it almost does sound like you guys probably have stumbled into some kind of encounter with a Bigfoot or Bigfoot-like creature, and it sounds like it was very interested in you guys while you were out there on the trail. So thank you guys for coming onto the show and sharing your story. For anyone who's interested in the written version, you can check that out on the official website. It's titled Loon Lake Lights under the paranormal category. And of course, for anyone else who has any paranormal stories of their own, pictures, video, or whatever, get on our site and submit it to us. It's on effedupstories.com. That's effedupstories.com. And of course, it can possibly be put on our website, and if it's really good, you may end up on our podcast. So with that said, thank you everyone for listening. This is Will signing out.